Jekyll Island has a beach that looks like it's from another planet, and it costs $10 to get in. Georgia has a second set of hidden places that have nothing to do with the mountains. The coast, the interior swamps, and the national forest in this state produce landscapes that feel genuinely otherworldly. And most people driving through on I-95 have no idea any of this exists. Today I'm covering 5 of them. Driftwood Beach on Jekyll Island is one of the most photographed shorelines in the country. At the island's north end, natural erosion has exposed the root systems and trunks of ancient trees, bleaching them white and leaving them standing or lying at the edge of the surf. The effect is surreal. Skeletal forms erupting from the beach, the Atlantic behind them. Morning light catching the bare bark in gold. Jekyll Island is accessible by car with a $10 vehicle entrance fee. Once you're in, 20-plus miles of paved bike paths crisscross the island through 3 distinct ecosystems: beach, marsh, and maritime forest. Bike rentals available through Bike Jekyll at 912-635-4116. Jekyll Island itself has an interesting history. Until 1947, it was a private retreat for the Rockefellers, Vanderbilts, Morgans, and Pulitzers. The historic Jekyll Island Club is now a National Historic Landmark hotel. Panther Creek Falls, up in Rabun County in North Georgia, is at the opposite end of the state, and it's completely free. A 4-mile round-trip trail through Chattahoochee National Forest ends at a 90-foot waterfall with a swimming hole at the base. Moderate difficulty, dramatic rock formations through the gorge, and no entrance fee. A legitimate bucket list waterfall that almost no one outside Georgia knows exists, near Clarksville, accessible in the same day as Tallulah Gorge for a North Georgia waterfall and canyon double feature. If you're new here, hit that like and subscribe button. I'm working through all 50 states from completely free to absolute luxury, and you'll want to be along for the ride. Over at theearnesttraveler.com, I've got a free ultimate adventure planner. Budget calculators, packing checklists, the whole thing. Links in the description. The complete travel guide for this video is down there too, with everything we cover in one spot. Stick around to the end. I'll tell you my single favorite pick from this whole video, the one I'd put at the top of my list if it were my trip. The budget tier here takes you somewhere most parks don't. Into a blackwater swamp that looks like it belongs in a prehistoric era. The Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge covers 400,000 acres of wetland in southeast Georgia, North America's largest blackwater swamp. The water is dark amber, tinted by tannins from the cypress trees, and completely clear in the shallows. Floating peat islands called batteries shift under your feet. The wildlife is extraordinary. Over 230 bird species, American alligators throughout the swamp, black bears at the edges, pitcher plants and other carnivorous plants growing in the peat mats. The silence between wildlife calls out here feels prehistoric. Stephen C. Foster. State Park on the western side runs 90-minute guided boat tours. Adults 12 and up pay $22.50. Children 5 through 11 pay $15. Book up to 7 days in advance by calling 912-637-5274. The Billy's Island Tour, a 90-minute trip to a historic interior island, runs $35 for adults. Dukes Creek Falls, 20 minutes from Helene in the Chattahoochee National Forest, is a 2-mile round trip on a paved trail to a 150-foot waterfall. One of the most accessible dramatic waterfalls in North Georgia. The Forest Service parking fee runs around $5. Pair it with a Helene lunch, and you filled a morning for almost nothing. Jekyll Island biking covers all 3 ecosystems: beach, maritime forest, and tidal marsh, in one morning by bike. It's one of the best $10 entry experiences in any state park system. The Okefenokee is best visited in fall or spring. Summer heat and insects are intense, and the experience is noticeably better when the temperature is below 80. Allow a full day for the refuge. The boat tours are the highlight. The mid-range in coastal Georgia centers on the Golden Isles, and the right home base for exploring them. Brunswick, on the Georgia mainland, has several solid mid-range hotels and a handful of good restaurants that serve as a base for the islands. The Jekyll Island Club, the restored Carnegie-era private retreat for Rockefellers and Vanderbilts, operates today as a hotel with rooms in the $180 to $300 per night range. Staying there puts you on the island itself without the daily drive, with the historic buildings and Driftwood Beach both accessible by bike from the front door. From Hampton River Club Marina on St. Simon's Island A private 20-minute boat ride takes a limited number of day visitors to Little St. Simons Island, 10,000 privately owned acres of pristine barrier island, 7 miles of natural beach, loggerhead sea turtle nesting from May through August, over 330 bird species, and alligators in the interior. Access is deliberately limited. Check littlesimansisland.com for current day trip availability and pricing before you plan. Raven Cliff Falls in the Chattahoochee National Forest near Helen is the mid-range waterfall on this list. A 4.5-mile round-trip hike ends at a 50-foot waterfall visible through a narrow clifftop gorge, a perspective that most waterfall hikes don't offer. Stay in a North Georgia mountain cabin and hit both Raven Cliff and Dukes Creek in the same day for a full waterfall double feature. The Georgia Sea Turtle Center on Jekyll Island is worth adding to a mid-range Jekyll day, a conservation hospital for injured sea turtles with a small admission fee that supports the rehabilitation program. May through August, the nesting season, is when sea turtles come ashore at night on Jekyll's beaches. The center offers occasional guided turtle walks during peak season that are among the more memorable wildlife experiences on this coast. At the luxury end of coastal Georgia, one property stands apart from everything else. The Lodge on Little St. Simons Island is an all-inclusive wilderness retreat on that privately owned 10,000-acre barrier island, accessible only by private boat. A small collection of cottages, extremely limited capacity by design, offers rates in the $600 to over $1,000 per night range. Everything is included. All meals prepared from scratch in the lodge kitchen, guided naturalist experiences, kayaking, fishing, and unlimited access to 7 miles of beach with almost no one else on it. The naturalist staff take guests out for turtle nesting activity in season, painted buntings in the maritime forest, and alligators in the interior ponds. There is no cell service and no Wi-Fi in the guest rooms. That's intentional. Most guests come for a minimum of 2 nights. The island requires at least that to properly settle into. Visit littlesimansisland.com for current rates and availability. The contrast across this list is remarkable. Panther Creek Falls costs nothing. Driftwood Beach is $10. An Okefenokee boat tour is $22.50. The Lodge on Little St. Simons is 4 figures a night. Georgia's coast and wild places cover that entire range without overlap. And that pick I promised you, Driftwood Beach at low tide on a weekday morning. The bleached white trees catch the early light against the open Atlantic sky. The beach runs empty in both directions. It looks like nothing else in this country, and it costs $10 and a bike ride from the parking lot. That's the one I'd put at the top of my list. Swamp, Driftwood Beach, or private island. What's your Georgia priority? Drop it in the comments. That's a wrap on the Georgia batch. Next, we're heading to South Carolina. Old-growth cathedral forest and a coast worth talking about. Stay tuned. Georgia's coast is one of the most underestimated stretches of shoreline on the East Coast. The Golden Isles, Jekyll, St. Simons, Sea Island, Little St. Simons, each offer something distinct, and none of them are crowded in the way that Florida's coast often is.